And it is time for another episode of The Horror Guys.
I'm Kevin,
I'm Brian.
and we're going to talk about horror movies.
Oh, amazing.
Are you feeling okay this week? You got a fever? Got
It's a cabin fever.
A cabin fever. Huh. It's a cabin fever kind of week, isn't it?
There's cabin fever, and then there's cabin fever. That's right. This week on episode 202, we will be talking about all the Cabin Fever movies. The one from the original from 2001, Cabin Fever 2, Spring Fever, Cabin Fever 3, Patient Zero, and Cabin Fever all over again with the remake in 2016.
And if they're going to throw a short in there that has nothing to do with cabin fever.
Nothing to do whatsoever, yes. All right, and as always, over at horrorbulletin.com, the newsletter website, we'll be looking at those same movies. But we're also going to talk about You Won't Be Alone, a witchcraft kind of movie from 2022. And we need to talk about Kevin from 2011.
Different Kevin, not this Kevin.
No, we probably ought to talk about you too, but not for the same reason.
Oh, we can always talk about me, but yeah.
Do any time traveling this week?
Like, I'm seeing a time 3 years ago when we were watching movies.
What did we watch 3 years ago?
We saw The Abominable Snowman and The Invisible Ray and The Bunny Game and The Killer Toon.
Well, The Invisible Ray was Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi.
I
liked that one.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
The Abominable Snowman was, I think, Peter Cushing's first, I believe it was a Hammer movie, his first one with them.
Mm-hmm.
The Bunny Game, I think it's probably the most extreme torture porn we have seen.
That was something.
People always talk about Serbian film, but in my opinion, I think The Bunny Game was worse.
Yeah, this was, yeah.
And The Killer Toon, I completely do not even remember.
I don't either. It must have been just completely forgettable.
I'm pretty sure it was a Japanese something or other, but
Killer Toon.
Killer Toon.
Shouldn't we remember it?
Well, you'd think.
Yeah, that's right. It was Asian and forgettable, and the guy with the webcomic artist, and people were dying, and stuff was happening. And
they'd read the comic, and something would come in and eat them or something.
Yeah,
yes, okay.
It was kind of weird and didn't make sense. And actually, of all these four, the one that I'm remembering the most, and I think I liked the most, was The Abominable Snowman.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of classic-y. Black and white.
Black and white
Peter
Hammer
Cushing.
movie.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right, and if you like black and white, you could pick up the latest copy of the Horror Bulletin Monthly Magazine in paperback over at horrorguysbooks.com. The 15th issue is out today. Yay! And that's got everything from the previous month in it, plus all the bonus stuff. So, yeah, keep up to date that way.
And you get to find out what our favorites and least favorites were.
You can, yes.
Yeah.
The highlights and the lowlights every month. What did we like the best? What did we think was the worst? And we're kind of mixed on a couple of them this time, I think.
Yeah.
And again, that's episode 15. If you want the first 14, because you haven't picked any of them up, they're all available there too. HorrorGuysShop.com. Or go to HorrorGuys.com and click on the shop link. It all works.
It's all good.
All right, so let's get sick with Cabin Fever.
Cabin Fever 2. No, Cabin Fever 2002.
The first movie was 2002.
Yes. Was it 2002 or 2001?
Yes.
You have both here.
I suspect it's one of those deals where it was made in 2001 and aired. Yeah.
So there's conflicting information out there on the web.
There is now.
Yeah.
Our website has it two different ways.
Have contributed to the conflicting information. This was written and directed by Eli Roth. Stars Jordan Ladd, Ryder Strong, James DeBello, and Serena Vincent. Runtime is 1 hour and 33 minutes, and there's a trailer in the show notes.
Spoiler free. What happens?
Well, lots of gore and lots of humor. Follows a familiar formula of a group of attractive, horny young people in an isolated location. And it's a horror movie, so you know they're going to get bumped off and bad things will happen. But who, if any, will survive? It's really well done.
Yeah.
And it's, different enough to be really interesting. And Eli Roth, I think, is really good direction, a lot of humor. Good stuff. Yeah.
Well, there's been other plague movies out there where people get sick and, the infection and contagion and things like that. And then there's zombie movies, which everybody knows what those are about. This kind of combines the two a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
And I'll spoil this thing for everybody right now. I think this is the best of the bunch.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And my second favorite was Patient Zero.
The third one,
one.
yes.
Yeah.
Although I have a couple complaints about the third one, but I definitely like the first one best.
Yes, yes.
Well, to spoil everything for you, we hear many flies having a frenzy as the credits roll. We return with a trapper carrying a rabbit in a snare. He brings the rabbit to his dog, but he finds that it's dead. Not just dead, but rotted open. That's like an exploding dog almost.
It was gross open, gross dead. Yeah.
We cut to annoying college kids in a pickup truck. Guess who's going to die in this film? It's going to be annoying college kids from a pickup truck. Well, they all drive out to the country and stop at a general store where a creepy, silent kid bites Paul. Everyone knows not to sit next to Dennis, shouts the proprietor. Well, Paul goes back around in the back to wash his hand in the stream and runs into a couple of very friendly dogs.
You know, and I'm going to pause there too, and just the little touches that Eli Roth, put in there. Because one of the kids says, well, you should put a sign or something. And later,
there's a sign.
There is a sign, and it's just in the background. You have to look for it. But, there's so many little touches here and there.
The old man inside the shop is really friendly, but he warns him against going too deep into the woods. He's super nice and super friendly, and when he suddenly takes a racist turn, it's a little bit of a shock.
Yeah, it was.
We both laughed out loud at that. What? What'd he say?
And then you find out at the end it's not as bad as what he meant.
Not at all what he meant.
Yeah.
Well, there's some debate on the washed-out road, but eventually they get to the lonely, isolated cabin in the woods. It's all very rustic, but it's really nice inside. Jeff and Marcy get to having sex straight away because it's one of those kind of movies. Bert goes squirrel hunting, and Paul and Karen go swimming in the lake. Paul gets to stay in the friend zone for a few more minutes.
Uh-huh.
They've known each other forever, and he's wanting to move it to the next level, and she's dragging it out.
Yep.
Well, Bert, who's an idiot, shoots the trapper by mistake, but the trapper is really sick and needs help. When the trapper advances on Bert, he shoots him again. That night at the campfire, Paul tells a story about a guy who murdered an entire bowling alley staff one by one. Well, a guy and his dog come out of the woods and want to share his weed with them. His name is Justin, but he goes by Grim, his skating name. This guy looks like he's almost 40, and he's got a skating name.
Well, some skaters endure.
Played by Eli Roth, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Jeff and Bert challenge each other to only drink beer for the rest of the weekend. No water for them, hey?
Which is a good thing, actually.
Later that night, Jeff opens the door and finds the even more sick trapper out there. He points to Bert and says, "He shot me." The trapper gets in their car and coughs up blood everywhere.
Yeah, he really makes a mess of it.
Yeah, they beat up the car and shoot at the car and mess up the car and to get him out of there. And, well, eventually they set the guy on fire and he runs away, which is pretty much a downer for the rest of the evening. You set one sick man on fire.
It ruined the party atmosphere.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, the next morning, we see the dead trapper floating in the lake right next to the water supply intake for the cabin. Bert and Jeff walk for help, while Marcy takes off walking in the other direction. Paul and Karen are both still upset over last night's disaster. Bert and Jeff find a nearby farm where they see a woman beating the hell out of a suspended pig. Well, this pig died from some infection, and they see Cousin Henry's photo on the counter. He's the trapper that they killed.
Oops.
Y'all haven't seen Cousin Henry out there, have you? No.
No.
Marcy takes a canoe across the lake and finds a deserted farmhouse. Oh, nope, not deserted. Jeff and Bert are there eating all those people's food. Make yourself a home.
Yeah. Nobody was there, so come on
Deputy Winston comes to the door and talks to Paul about what happened last night.
And he was a hoot.
Oh, he's the best character in the bunch.
Yeah.
He doesn't even notice all the blood on the car at first, and it's literally dripping. Winston promises to get a mechanic up here to fix it in the morning. And Angelo Badalamenti, the music guy from Twin Peaks,
Yeah.
did 3 or 4 themes for this show, and his was one of them. and the music gets really weird whenever he's on screen.
It's noticeable.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the music comes from connections with that Twin Peaks type music. There was and thanks to David Lynch at the end. He had something.
Oh, okay.
He
I
wasn't a
didn't notice that.
producer, but he had something to do with this.
Okay.
And I think that's why this is so weirdly offbeat.
It helps.
Well, Grimm's dog comes to the cabin without Grimm. What might have happened to him? Well, Karen hasn't left her room all day, but we see her conspicuously drinking the water. Paul decides to make a move on the sleeping Karen, putting his hand down her pants. When his hand comes up bloody and nasty, and so are her lower regions, Karen's got whatever Henry the Trapper had. Ew.
Yeah.
Well, the 4 healthy people freak out over this horrible disease that Karen's caught and make her move back out into the nearby woodshed. As one does. You're sick?
Quarantine.
Get out.
Quarantine.
Well, Karen wants to go home, but their car is broken and they can't get help. The next morning, Bert finally gets the Jeep running, but Karen is in no shape to move.
Yeah, she's getting worse.
Well, they try anyway, but soon Bert starts coughing up blood, and so does Karen. Bert takes the truck and leaves the rest of them at the cabin. Jeff, the germaphobe, grabs a couple of cases of beer and marches off into the woods alone. Marcy says they're all going to die anyway, so she may as well have sex with Paul. What? Where'd that even come from?
He's okay with that.
Yeah. We soon see that Marcy's infected as well. Bert gets to the general store, and Dennis the Biter does some martial arts move while screaming, "Pancakes!"
He's a
Wow.
very strange boy.
He's a very, yeah. After Winston, he's number 2. Then he bites Bert. His father, the store's owner, runs Bert off. His friends chase after Bert with guns blazing. They made my boy sick. Then they're going to get him for that.
They are, and they do.
Paul accidentally goes swimming with the dead trapper's badly decomposed body and notices the drinking water comes from right there. Meanwhile, Marcy takes a bath and shaves her legs, which goes badly for her. She runs outside, covered in blood, and Grimm's dog tears her apart. I smell blood. Paul finds this and also checks in on Karen, who has not died, but would probably be better off if she had. He thinks so too, because he then beats her to death with a pick. He's just helping.
No, to put her out of her misery. Yeah. She's too far gone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, the 3 armed men from the store track Bert back to the cabin. In the ensuing battle, everyone dies except Paul. He locks the one surviving unconscious gunman in the cellar and then looks for Jeff. He finds about half of Grimm in a cave and runs away. Paul then finds the shooter's truck and drives away, which works really well until he hits a lively deer. Oh, that deer. That's a character, too.
Trying to come in through the windshield.
He staggers out of the woods into one of Deputy Winston's parties, and Winston forgot all about the tow truck. The sheriff calls Winston and tells him to shoot the cabin kids on sight. There's some kind of massacre going on up there. Paul coughs up some nastiness on the partiers before they drive away. Paul then tries to flag down a truck that takes him to the hospital. When he wakes up, the sheriff wants to know what happened. Paul rants about killing people, and the sheriff gets the wrong idea. They load him into Deputy Winston's car, who promises to take care of him. The next day, Jeff staggers out of wherever he's been hiding and drinking beer. He's still perfectly fine. He finds bits and pieces of people all over the cabin and the grounds. "I made it," he laughs, as the whole police department then shoots him full of holes.
It's the Night of the Living Dead ending.
Yeah. The sheriff and deputy are here to clean up the mess and keep it all quiet. Then they burn the bodies and the cabin. Elsewhere, some kids fill a cooler from the local river to make lemonade for their stand, right downstream of Paul's rotting corpse. They dumped him in the river. Bad choice. Well, the police stop in at the general store, and we see who the rifle behind the counter was really meant for. Well, okay, the first half of this movie is basically another Cabin in the Woods type story where we meet the main characters. Of course, things soon devolve into a real mess, and the gore here is really good, especially if you're into body horror. Deputy Winston is seriously weird. The general store people are all hilariously weird. Hey, you got a sick friend? Lock him up outside in a shed. The harmonica guy is so far over the top, it's hard to take anything seriously after that part. It's really gross. It's really funny.
Yeah, really well done. Held up with the second viewing.
Yeah, it was a good thing they never remade it.
But they did.
I think this probably would not have been anywhere near as good without the funny, the humor bits, because it's just it's a very serious movie. It's a very serious situation, but it's just got these funny bits in it.
And weirdness.
Weirdness, yeah. The kid with the biting and pancakes and weird.
Thrown in some weird stuff.
All right, and then a couple years later, somebody had the bright idea, hey, let's make a sequel. We'll call it Cabin Fever 2, Spring Fever, in 2009. Directed by Ty West, more or less. He denied it afterwards. Written by Joshua Malkin, Randy Perlstein, and Ty West. Stars Ryder Strong, the guy from the first movie, in a major role.
Oh, right, yeah.
He doesn't make it to the credits. Noah Sagan, Alexi Wasser, and Rusty Kelly, hour and 26 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. It's said that Ty West disavowed this work because of heavy corruption by the producers, ending up with a movie he didn't have in mind. I hope this is not what he had in mind. That would explain it, because he has done good things. This was not it.
This wasn't one of them.
This was a disappointing slog after how good the first Cabin Fever was, and it takes quite a long time to get to the horror part. There are some good moments after it, but it's a little, too late. And of this, well, I want to say this was the worst of the series, but I'm not.
No,
I'm going to hold off on that one.
It's not the worst of the series. It's the,
Yeah.
Well, Paul from the first film wakes up in the river. He's not quite dead. His face is half melted off. He walks to the down home water plant, which is pumping water from the lake. It's still all about the water.
Mountain spring water. Now we know where that comes from.
He staggers through the woods, leaving a trail of gore behind him, walks into the highway to flag down help, and goes splat when a school bus hits him. Credits roll.
And he got top billing for that.
I wonder how much he got paid for that.
He was wearing so much body, makeup on his face, you could have been anybody under there.
Well, Deputy Winston is back, same actor, takes a statement of the school bus driver. Winston says it was a moose, not a man. And, he's just liquefied. You can't tell.
He found the foot and everything. But he knows what it is.
But he knew, yeah. Well, he jumps when a down-home water truck buzzes by. As the rest of the credits roll, there's an animation of the truck driving to the bottling plant. And John and his friend Alex walk through the high school and talk about Sandy, the hot girl. John soon ends up in the principal's office. Later, Alex consoles a girl who got dumped, and she gives him a blowjob in the bathroom, which is great except for the braces. Yeah. And at the last minute, John asks Cassie to the prom, which is in 5 hours. She declines.
Thanks for the notice.
Yeah, short notice. Well, at the diner, Winston eats pancakes while the water truck driver has a seizure. He ends up spraying blood everywhere. Winston hops in the car, figures out the water connection. He goes to the bottling plant, checks the paperwork, and then the health department breaks in the door and kills the night watchman as Winston runs away. They're there to try to shut things down, but it's too late. The genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah, I don't think that's really the health department.
That's not the health department. They don't come in with machine guns.
Flamethrowers.
Yeah. Well, everyone gets ready for the prom, and many of them drink water as they prepare. Alex peels off his fingernail. He's already starting to show symptoms. Rick and Federica go skinny dipping in the school pool, but she starts to dissolve, and Rick just dies in his attempt to save her.
Yeah, what is that? She was not infected before she got in the pool. That must be really strong.
Yeah. Well, the janitor bloody pees in the punch bowl in the kitchen, meanwhile.
Stupid kids, I'll show them.
Yeah. Well, Sandy screams at the principal that she can't find Rick. Mark and John get into another fight. John and Cassie then clear the air between them. There's a whole bunch of teen drama here going on.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, too much teen drama. It really too much not horror in this. Well, then the men with guns and hazmat suits show up and demand they go back inside the high school. And then the men in vans chain the door shut and shoot the principal. So back in the prom, things start livening up. Things get really bloody really fast. Outside, Winston calls a friend to drive him out of town. And the soldiers, whoever they are, wander the halls, killing infected people one at a time while gassing the main prom crowd.
Which prom would you rather go to, this one or Carrie?
Boy, it's kind of a toss-up. Both are lethal. Alex finds a book in the library that discusses flesh-eating bacteria, but it's too late to save him. Cassie watches Mark beat a man to death with a fire extinguisher. And John notices that his hand is infected. So, of course, the logical thing, you go to the wood shop and ask Cassie to chop it off with a table saw, which is a painful scene. And she does, spraying them both with blood.
So much for
she's
getting rid of the hand.
too, because she got sprayed. And then Cassie then burns the wood and seals it with duct tape. And he's all better.
How many movies have you seen where somebody gets something amputated and then they burn the hole shut?
Yeah.
How likely is that to
kind of a
really
trope.
work and not kill you by some kind of infection?
I don't think that's a very good thing to do in real life. Don't do that in real life if that comes up. Yeah.
Well, it's probably better than bleeding to death, but probably not that reliably.
Yeah. Well, Mark sneaks in and hits her in the head with a hammer, but before he can kill John, she gets Mark with a nail gun. Gore everywhere.
Construction, the wood shop.
The wood shop, yeah.
Right tool for the right job.
Yeah. John and Cassie do make it out the back door and into the woods. John is captured, but Cassie escapes. And she crosses the road to flag down a car, and it's Winston and his buddy. They let her into the car, and they drive on, getting out of town, even though we know she's infected. So, spreading it everywhere. Well, it was in the water anyway, and the water's being bottled and shipped all over. And at the town strip club, the Braces girl shares her bloody lipstick with the other performers. And several of the guys in the audience think she looks like a high school student.
Because she is.
She then has sex with the patrons, and we get to see another animated bit showing how the disease spreads.
Ew.
Yeah, ew.
Ty West disavowed having anything to do with this film, asking them to give him an Alan Smithy credit, which they refused. And if you're not familiar with it, whenever you see it's directed by Alan Smithy, he's not a real guy. That's like John Doe for directors.
When they want to...
It's like, I want nothing to do with this travesty you've released.
For whatever reason, yeah.
But they refused to do it, so he's still on the credits. It's really obvious why he wanted his name removed. It's pretty awful. It's just like all the high school horror films of the 80s and 90s, only 20-some years too late.
It's dated and not funny and kind of dull. Yeah.
It really amps up the humor to the point where there's more humor than horror here. That's what I liked about the first one. It was a scary movie with some funny bits. This is almost comedy level.
But it wasn't even funny.
No.
It was lame.
There's a lot of really bad teen angst here on top of the overly talky first half. The blood and gore are excessive, but not particularly innovative or even good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it could go worse. All right. Well,
we cleansed our palate with a short.
We did.
Was really good.
We watched a good short called Kiddo from 2022.
This was strange and interesting.
Directed by Brett Chapman, written by him and also Scott Milligan. Stars Lisa Howard, Lauren Patel, and Patty Stafford. 8 long whole minutes. So, yeah, it's a shorty. And this one's not available on YouTube, but you can check it out over on Instagram. There's a link in the show notes. And what happens?
Well, that's a good question because you don't know at first. A group of young people, all similarly dressed, seem to be on a field trip in a bus. All except one much older woman named Kiddo. And we're also told that Jasper is coming of age and joining the family business. He seems to kind of watch out for Kiddo, who acts very strangely and wears what appears to be a dog collar. Why is she wearing a dog collar? And there's the strangest dinner scene, too.
Yeah.
Where they're eating and Kiddo's at the table, but, it's just weird, yeah. But you slowly figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very strange world, and you do figure it out at the end, although we had our suspicions along the way. How will Kiddo fare on this little road trip? And will she ever smile? And what is she for?
She says, I'm not for that a couple of times.
Yeah.
Well, what are you for?
What are you for then? Well, it's really well done. The soundtrack is cool, the sets are interesting, and the weird situation is just perfect for a short of this kind.
Yeah, very cool.
Yes, it was.
All right. Am I feeling sick again?
Still, yeah. But we're back to the beginning, where this disease began with Cabin Fever 3.
Well, that was debatable,
Patient
really.
3.
It's
Patient
kind of a
0.
prequel, but it's not. Because, well, we'll get to it.
Yeah, I'd call it a prequel.
They mentioned in the beginning that, these isolated cases have already appeared up in the States a few places, but they've been contained.
Yeah, okay.
So you could take this either
Not
way.
the beginning.
Well, could be.
But it could be.
It's debatable.
Uh-huh.
2014, Cabin Fever 3, Patient 0, directed by Carrie Andrews, written by Jake Wade Wall.
Mm-hmm.
Stars Sean Astin, Curry Graham, and Ryan Donahue. Hour and 31 minutes. Spoiler free, what happens?
Spoiler free. It's a little too long to get the doomed. Let me say that again. It takes a little too long to get to know the doomed young people initially, but it does get going quite nicely. And as you might guess from the title, it's kind of a prequel. It shows the origins of the disease from the first two movies, and it's a pretty complex and interesting story. Cast does a decent job with it. Gore effects are pretty over the top. And it is a nice bounce back from the second movie.
Oh, right.
Definitely an improvement.
Oh, yeah. Much, much better than the second movie. Not as good as the first one, but good by itself. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, we get credits as we watch men in hazmat suits checking out a crime scene. They pull one man out of a house and send him to the hospital for examination. Elsewhere, on an island, Dr. Edwards takes over at the lab, and we immediately see that he's a jerk. The various small occurrences of the plague have all been contained so far, but it's just a matter of time, he says. So this is what makes me think it's not a prequel. There have been other breakouts.
Right, yeah, kind of a simultaneous
Plus,
thing.
where this ends is not where the other movies took off.
True that.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think those are just setting up a new sequel here.
Mm-hmm.
The man they picked up from that house is the only survivor of the disease. He's patient 0, Mr. Porter.
So that's kind of incorrect, because typically patient 0 is the one you call the source of the disease, and he's not.
He's immune. He's not really patient 0.
Yeah, he's just a carrier, but he doesn't get it himself.
Yeah. Edwards tells him that he's asymptomatic carrier. Porter is not very cooperative, but that's not going to stop Edwards. And then the credits roll. That's a lot to get going in the beginning.
Yeah, it was.
Well, we cut to a group of young people. What? Young people?
Young people.
Coming for a wedding in the tropics. Marcus is getting married at the resort. His brother Josh comes to the wedding party along with his girl Penny, and Marcus isn't really thrilled to see either of them since Josh is a loud drunk, and Penny is an old flame. Awkward.
A little bit.
Well, a woman at the bazaar tries to give Penny a protective amulet, which I thought was going to mean something, and it really didn't. It was just a scene for no particular reason.
Yeah, she wasn't. I thought, oh, she's a harbinger, and she wasn't even really that.
Or the amulet will have some use or something, but
yeah,
no, it's just nothing.
Yeah, the thing.
Dobbs and Josh have rented a boat to take all of them to a deserted island for a bachelor party getaway. Fiancée Katya insists that she will stay behind, but Penny should go along since they've known her for so long she's practically one of the guys. And we see that Katya is kind of a stick in the mud. She's very, very rich, and he's not. He's kind of marrying up.
Mm-hmm. Way up.
Which causes drama later.
Yeah, it does.
Back at the lab, Porter talks to Camila, one of the scientists. He wants to know if they've told his wife what happened to his son, who melted in his arms. They've been experimenting on him for 2 months now, and he's had more than enough. He threatens to kill himself if he doesn't hear from his wife, and Bridget gives a very generic-sounding message from his wife and saying she's fine. And we're like, no, they made that up.
Yeah, right on the spot, yeah.
We know she's lying. More importantly, we can see that Porter knows she's lying too. He purposely then infects one of the technicians. This causes a 48-hour lockdown, and all the guards and support staff are evacuated to the outer bunker, leaving just the 3 scientists, the infected technician, and Porter in the inner sanctum. Get rid of all those extras we didn't want to pay for.
That's right.
Well, back on the boat, Marcus gets upset that Josh doesn't like Katya. He's marrying up into the higher class, and his brother and friends don't like it. Penny comes on to him, but he avoids her. Soon after, they come to a nice deserted-looking island that's not even on the map. Uh-oh.
What could go wrong?
Well, their guide drops them off and leaves with the boat to come back after they've had their fun. I'll be back in 24 hours.
Says the guide.
Yeah. Josh and Penny go snorkeling, but they can't find any fish. None. Well, not alive anyway, but there's a lot of rotten ones all over the bottom of the lagoon.
Which means the disease has gotten into the ocean, which, it's not contained.
No.
Yeah.
She gets upset, but Josh makes a joke out of it. Marcus and Dobbs are too high to care. They got a big old bag of weed. Penny notices that she has a rash on her arm now. That moved quickly.
Yep, it did.
Edwards and assistant Bridget work on the man that Porter infected, and she gets splashed with blood. She runs out to wash the blood off, but we know, and she knows, it's too late at that point. Penny shows Josh her rash, and now he has some on his legs too. He thinks they got some bad weed and are reacting to it. They have sex, and we see that she's already getting pretty bad. She then spits blood all over Josh. He doesn't react well to that.
No, he doesn't.
Marcus and Dobbs decide to make for that building they saw on the way into the island, and they find a compound that seems to be deserted and locked down. They force a shutter up and go in. Then they get locked in and soon find blood all over the floor. There's a radio that someone smashed with an axe. As they explore the place, they find no people, but lots of wreckage.
And this is where you get an inkling that this stuff was going on kind of at the same time, that this is the lab where Porter is.
Yeah, something has gone wrong.
It hadn't really sunk in until that point. Like, oh yeah, except everybody's dead there, so something went badly wrong.
Josh kinda contacts Dr. Edwards on the radio, who says to come to the compound. But he accidentally pulls the skin off Penny's arms. "I can fix this," he screams.
As he runs off.
No, you can't fix that.
No.
Well, Dobbs and Marcus finally find an infected man with a gun, and the chase is on. As they try to hide, they find dozens of rotting corpses, some of which aren't dead yet. Marcus finds a room full of information and gets some idea of what they're dealing with. Josh, who got in some other different way, catches up with Dobbs and Marcus, and the three of them have an armed standoff as they all spout truth at each other. The angst resurfaces.
Oh, yes.
At the worst time.
Yeah.
Well, the three guys find Bridget and Camila, confirming that this is the lab we've been seeing all this time. Bridget's looking pretty bad, and they meet Edwards and Porter. They all blame for Dr. Edwards for what's happening. Of course, he's been locked in the quarantine building. He could have done all this.
Right.
Camila says the dead fish in the ocean means it's just a matter of time until it spreads to the mainland. Oh yeah, there's also a self-destruct system for the compound. Well, they find the sewer system that drains into the lagoon, but only Porter can go in and turn the valve off since he's immune.
And this was, some bad science. Here's this ultra high-tech lab, locked down, airtight. The sewer drains into the ocean.
Mm-hmm. And why did all the dead people just pile up on top of the sewer?
We find that out later.
Do we?
Yeah.
All right.
With the mouse.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is another... Bring that up later. That's
Big
something I'm going to
spoiler.
complain about toward the end.
What, you didn't see it? You didn't see her drop the mouse?
No.
Yeah. I actually saw her drop the mouse. But I didn't know how important
What he's talking
that
about
was.
is a bunch of stuff that comes out during the end credit scenes that I don't know what the deal was with that. Why put that in the end credit scenes when it would have helped the story make a lot more sense right now?
Yeah, I thought so.
It's like
Save
they
it till
decided
the
they
end.
needed more footage or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, they set the destruct to go boom soon. Bridget then whacks Josh with a stick and takes half his face off. Edwards talks to Dobbs about what Dobbs' infection will do to him until Edwards gets a chance to kill him. Bridget makes it to the beach and encounters Penny, who's a rotten mess. The two have a gross, rotten, skinless catfight as they literally pull each other to pieces.
That was just nasty.
That's the highlight of the movie there. Marcus, Porter, and Camila find Dobbs's and Josh's bodies in the jungle. Edward starts to monologue, and she shoots Marcus. And Porter then shoots Edwards.
Not many survivors here.
No.
Yeah.
Back on the boat on the way home, Marcus tells Camila that a mouse infected the people in the bunker. She realizes that this is something he saw in that room with the posters.
Yes.
She realizes that Porter infected everyone on purpose, including the water he just gave them to drink.
Yeah, the people in the bunker were separate from the people in the lab because of that quarantine, and they'd made notes of their own outside in the bunker.
Well, Porter then kills the guide, sabotages the boat, and takes the dinghy, leaving for the mainland without them. And then during the closing credits, we get to see what went on with that mouse that we just now heard about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did kind of save that till the end.
Yeah, it turns out Porter infected a mouse with his blood. He let it go, which it then crawled into the bunker and killed all the people in the bunker.
Yeah, which he couldn't have had control over. I mean, he was hoping that something would happen like that, or it would infect him. But it just so happened that she was when he killed when he infected the technician, that was a big to do, and she was startled. She dropped the mouse, and so the mouse was running loose. When they did the evacuation lockdown, the mouse ran out with those people into that outer bunker.
But this whole thing with the mouse shows up after the credits.
Yeah.
If you blink, you'll miss it. And it's an important part of the story. How did all those people wind up dead? We didn't know.
Well, now you do.
Yeah.
If you pay attention and watch this.
It's sloppy.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay, well, Marcus's angst over the wedding really drags out. These people are all going to die anyway, and we know it, so move on with the story. The acting here is far better than the second film, and Sean Astin and Curry Graham do a good job with the script they have. Curry Graham is always a weasel, you notice?
Yeah. Typecast. Yeah.
Sean
It
Astin,
seems
he
that-
can go either
seems
way.
like-
Sometimes
he
he's a
can.
good guy, sometimes he's not.
And here he's kind of both.
Yeah. Still, this one feels more like a zombie movie than a plague film. These bloody dead people kept getting up, chasing them around, doing stuff like zombies. And
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, a zombie is still a plague film, but this one's over the edge more into the zombie territory, I thought.
Yeah.
Naturally, there is always overlap between the two genres, but this could easily have been a simply Walking Dead movie just by changing a few lines here and there. The Penny versus Bridget fight was really something. They went all out on the gore with that. Yeah, they're rotting and dripping and bits are falling off.
Yeah.
Well, there was too much pre-wedding stuff that didn't come to anything and slowed down the good parts. Still, it was miles better than the second film.
Yeah, it was.
Which takes us... And then they made no more cabin fever movies forever.
Well, except somebody said, I liked that first movie. We should remake that.
I would love to know the logic behind this one.
Who was thinking this was a good idea? And the chain of how this happened.
The
That'd be
2002
interesting.
movie stands up just fine today.
Yeah.
They've got cell phones that don't work. They're out in the country where there's no technology. There's no significant need to update this. But they did. 2016 Cabin Fever, directed by Travis Zerwini, written by Eli Roth and Randy Perlstein.
And only written by Eli Roth because they used the same script.
Yeah.
Except didn't. I mean, they
Mostly.
They took out some of the good parts.
Stars.
More on that later.
Stars Gage Golightly, Matthew Daddario, and Samuel Davis. Hour and 39 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. I watched the trailer, and I'm like, man, that looks just like the same movie with just different actors.
But they wouldn't do that, would they? No. Well,
Spoiler free.
We started watching it. And, yeah.
Spoiler free, the horror guys are baffled about why this was remade. It's the same script and story as the original, and there wasn't much new, but some good bits from the original were missing. The effects were fine, but there was nothing particularly new there. It's less funny, and it's very mediocre by comparison.
And, if you're going to remake a movie, I mean, like, for example, the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Or The Thing.
Yeah, they remake them. They're kind of different. There's something different. There's different elements, different updates.
Yeah, maybe The Nightmare on Elm Street is a better example. It is the same story.
It is the same story.
But it's different.
But it was different enough to be interesting. We didn't think it was better, but we don't begrudge it because it wasn't a shot-for-shot remake of the same script.
Remember when they did the
this one
shot-for-shot
was?
Psycho remake? Everybody complained and thought that was stupid.
Yeah.
Why would they do the same thing here?
Yeah, this is, well, the Psycho thing was, I guess, that was really shot for shot, angle for angle. This isn't
Awfully close.
This isn't at least that, degree, but it's the same script, the same stuff happens, the same lines a lot of time.
Okay, well, check out our synopsis here. What happens?
I have to tell them?
Yeah, some of it. It doesn't. I gave up halfway through. You don't have to read the whole thing.
I mean, it's the same thing. Well, Henry the Trapper wanders through the woods carrying a rabbit. He tells the dog that he caught dinner, but the dog, whose name is Pancakes, explodes in a bloody mess in the man's face.
So we thought, well, they're going to mix things
Credits
up because
roll.
they moved the pancake line. Now it's the pancake as the dog's name. So this is going to be different. It's going to be good. It's all right. We're good.
5 friends are headed to a remote cabin in the woods. But first, they stop by the general store for beer, where a weird kid is sitting there. And the guy sits next to him, and the kid bites him. Because everybody knows you don't talk to dentists.
But this kid doesn't have long white hair. He's wearing a rabbit mask.
Okay, bold differences. Yeah. Well, there's some talk. The man in the store warns them about Lyme disease and bad stuff in the woods. Casually states that some hikers got real sick last week, but the doctor took care of them, I guess.
None of that gun humor.
Yeah. Well, the cabin is really nice. Nicer cabin, actually, I thought. There's no phone signal, no internet, no TV. Bird asks what the hell they're supposed to do all week. But luckily he brought a gun, so he goes out squirrel hunting.
A fully automatic assault rifle.
So the gun is updated. It's more of a gun this time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, Bert's an idiot, and you don't take one of those kinds of guns for squirrel shooting.
Yeah. Well, again, there's the friend zone thing with Paul and Karen, yada, yada. And Jeff and Marcy have sex. Bert shoots Henry again because Bert's still an idiot. And that night around the campfire, there's still the same story about the murder in the bowling alley.
Now, this one
like
I
the
thought was
same
strange
story.
in the first movie because that story had nothing to do with anything in the first movie. And it doesn't here either. It's the same story.
And then a hiker named Grimm shows up, and he's got pot, and he's got a dog.
You're getting to the different part here soon, right?
No. Well, Henry comes to the door later, and he's really sick. And
Let me guess.
really
He's
a
going to
mess.
accuse somebody of shooting
And he
him.
accuses Bert of shooting him because he did.
I didn't see that coming.
And then he tries to steal the car and makes a mess of it, and they kill him. They set him on fire. Just like we're just watching this thinking, how can this be so the same?
Okay, well, then the guys talk about going for help, and Marcy takes off first. Karen and Paul argue about setting a strange man on fire and whether or not that might have been the wrong course of action.
You think?
Paul and Jeff then come across a woman slaughtering a diseased-looking pig in the barn. And when they get back to the cabin, they find Deputy Winston there, and she's really weird.
Except not as weird or not as good.
No,
Just,
she was a little weird, but not funny weird, just weird.
yeah.
And at this point, it started to seem a little pointless to add anything new to the synopsis, since this is obviously exactly the same film as the 2002 version.
But the ending was different, right?
No. They even used the same basic script.
Okay.
What the hell were they thinking?
I don't know.
This is nearly word for word, nearly shot for shot as the original.
You know, one thing that somebody pointed out, like this was, a brilliant move or some artistic choice.
Oh yeah, the reverse.
A lot of the scenes are reversed. Like if somebody's standing on the left side of the screen in the original, they'll be on the right side for this scene instead.
So it's like bizarro
Okay.
cabin fever.
It's a mirror image sometimes. Okay.
The very few changes they did make were worse than the original. Who thought this was a good idea? The production values were good, the acting was good, and it all looks just fine, but there was absolutely nothing wrong with the original. Also, the original had a lot more humor and weirdness than this one, that this one lacks. I was kind of hoping there would be some improved, updated special effects, or maybe some surprising twist at the end. No. It was exactly the same story with some very minor changes, like Winston is gender swapped. So what?
Well, yeah.
But anyway, it wasn't even as good as the original. And we paid $4 to watch this stinker on Apple TV, and that has to be my biggest regret of the entire month of November. We were robbed.
We was robbed. Yeah.
And that is our show for this week. Stop in over at horrorguys.com and read all the reviews with spoilers and everything. Go to Horror Bulletin, get the free email newsletter. Go to Horror Guys Shop and pick up some books. And next week, what are we going to have?
Movies.
How many?
4.
Will there be a short?
There'll be a short.
Hey, just like this week. Same
All
script
right.
even.
Ooh.
Shot for shot. It'll be different movies, though.
Yeah, and
So-
we'll be on opposite sides of the microphone.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Horror Guys, the remake. All right. Well, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.